child should not have survived the crash. That was the first thing Keth noticed when he dug her out of the wreckage, not her size, not the golden skin already going pale from the cold, not the silver eyes blinking at him through the smoke. The shuttle had come down hard on the upper ledge, shedding cargo containers and hull plates across 200 meters of snow, and she had been in the cargo section because someone had tucked her in there between a crate of medical supplies and a roll of insulated cable. That someone was gone now. The rest of the shuttle's 8 passengers were gone. She was not. Keth stood over her in the whiteout wind and said nothing for a long moment. He was not built for indecision. Vaughan ran a tight ledger. What was useful, what was not, what could be salvaged, what had to be discarded. He managed way station collating for the Alliance cargo run, which meant he logged manifests, maintained the equipment shed, and kept the heating units from failing in the upper passes. He did not keep children. Children went to clan nurseries, to processing centers, to somewhere that was not here. He picked her up anyway because she was shaking, and carried her inside. That was not sentiment. That was practicality. A dead rail child on the ledge was a complication that would require paperwork. He sat her down on the heating grate in the equipment room and put a thermal blanket around her shoulders and sent the emergency relay up to the Alliance dispatch with the crash report and a request for recovery personnel. The pass, the relay bounce back, was closed. 3 to 4 weeks estimated. He looked at the child looked at him. "You will not die here," he said, because that was the least he could commit to. "The heating units are functional." She did not say anything. Her silver eyes were very large. Rail ran warm climate physiology, which meant the cold had already done something to her that would take days to undo, and she had the particular stillness of a creature that has recently understood that movement means pain. He heated the emergency ration packet, Alliance issue, designed for Alliance species, which Rail were not, but the protein base was compatible, and put it on the floor in front of her the way he would have put water out for a stray animal coming in from the cold. She ate it without looking at him. He went back to the manifests. She was still there in the morning. He had, somewhere in the back of his mind, expected her not to be, expected the problem to have resolved itself overnight, for the relay to bring good news, for something to change. The pass was still closed. She was still sitting on the heating grate with the thermal blanket and the large eyes. "What is your name?" he said. She told him. It came out as a soft syllable, 2 sounds compressed together, lis, the kind of name small creatures had, the kind that could be said quickly in an emergency. "Keth," he said, pointing at himself, though she had not asked. The days arranged themselves with the grim efficiency of a mountain winter. He ran his checks. He logged his manifests. He heated ration packets. She stayed on the grate, then gradually migrated to the secondary storage bench, then to the corner behind the auxiliary fuel cells where it was warmest and the wall held the heat longest. He did not comment on her movements. She did not comment on his routine. This was, he decided, manageable. On the 5th day, she asked him what he was writing. He told her cargo manifests, weight, origin, destination, contents. She asked why. He said because if something goes missing between origin and destination, the manifest tells you where it went wrong. She considered this and said that sounded important. He said it was. On the 8th day, she asked him to read one aloud because she was bored. He read her a manifest for an ore shipment from the Kalveth Mining Collective to the Eastern Processing Hub. She listened with the complete attention that children gave to things adults considered dull, as though dullness were its own kind of wonder. He found himself reading more slowly than necessary. On the 11th day, she climbed up on the bench beside him while he worked and watched his hands move over the ledger. Her feet did not reach the floor. He said nothing. She said nothing. After an hour, she fell asleep with her cheek against the side of his arm, and he did not move until she woke up again, because moving would have disturbed her, and she needed the rest. The rail constitution was fragile in altitude and cold, and she was still recovering from the crash. That was why he did not move, nothing else. The relief team arrived in week 4, as promised, a 2-person Alliance recovery detail with a skimmer rated for high-altitude travel and a case of medical supplies. Keth met them at the landing shelf. One was a Vaughn like himself, older, with the look of someone who spent their life processing other people's problems. The other was human, young, with cold weather gear, and an expression that suggested the altitude was doing something unpleasant to his sinuses. "Rail child from the shuttle Marath 6 incident," the older Vaughn said, without preamble. "We have a processing order. She goes to the Alliance Child Welfare Depot at Station Myra for basic care and species group placement." Keth looked at the processing order. It was formally correct. Stamped, dated, authenticated. "She is recovering from cold exposure injury," he said. "The depot has medical staff. The skimmer is not pressurized for altitude transitions. A rail child in recovery is not your jurisdiction, depot manager." The human said nothing, watching. He had taken out a small notebook and was writing in it, which Keth noted without understanding why. Keth looked at the processing order again. He looked at the number at the top, reference 7734C, which was the designation for unclaimed minors. Not for a child with a name. Not for Liz, who had memorized 6 cargo manifests by now, and could tell him the weight tolerance of every major shipping container in the Alliance Standard, because she asked questions while he worked, and he had found it easier to answer than to explain why he wouldn't. "No," he said. The older Vaughn stared at him. "She stays until the pass opens fully and a proper medical transfer can be arranged with a pressurized transport," Keth said. He did not raise his voice. The mountain wind did enough of that for both of them. "Log it as extended medical hold. The form is in Section 12 of the Charter." The human wrote something in his notebook. He was smiling slightly, which was a thing humans did for reasons Keth had never fully catalogued. The relief team left without the child. He returned inside to find Liz standing at the window, watching the skimmer bank away into the white sky. Her expression was not readable to him. Rail faces moved in ways that Vaughn faces did not, but she turned when she heard him come in and looked at him for a long moment. "Was that for me?" she said. It was not quite a question. "It was for the paperwork," he said. "The transfer would have been medically inadvisable." She looked at him a moment longer, then went back to the bench and her manifests. He went back to his. "She left in the spring, when the pass reopened, and a properly equipped transport came with a licensed rail medical attendant and a welfare representative who was not the older Vaughn." Keth handed over the medical log he had kept: daily temperatures, ration consumption, sleep cycles, with the thoroughness he brought to any manifest, because it was important that whoever received her next had accurate records. The welfare representative read through it and said nothing for a moment, and then said she had never seen a non-medical caretaker maintain documentation like this. Keth said he kept good records. She came back the following summer because the welfare placement in the warm climate settlement had been delayed, and the Alliance needed a licensed temporary guardian to hold her placement status for 90 days. He was licensed now, had filed the paperwork in the winter to cover the extended medical hold period, so it was legally simple. She arrived with a single bag, which was more than she had arrived with the first time, and walked straight to the corner behind the auxiliary fuel cells and sat down. He heated a ration packet. The 90 days became 6 months. The 6 months became a year, because the warm climate placement fell through entirely, and the Alliance welfare system was large and slow and full of forms. Keth navigated the forms with the same methodical patience he brought to cargo discrepancies, working through section after section, filing corrections, requesting reviews. He was not doing this for any particular reason. He was doing it because the system had errors and errors needed to be corrected. Liz grew. Rail children grew quickly in the first years. gaining height in visible increments, and she was taller each time she came back from the monthly welfare check-in at the lower station. She learned to run the heating unit checks with him because she asked what they were for, and he showed her. She learned the manifest system because she sat beside him while he worked and asked questions he found himself answering at length. She learned that the wind at Kaladin shifted from the northeast in winter and could be read in the pressure gauge 2 hours before it hit. She learned the smell of the place, which was stone and machine oil and cold, and she stopped flinching at the wind, and her rail constitution, which was not designed for altitude, adjusted in the particular stubborn way of young things that have decided somewhere is home. He noticed this. He did not say anything about it. In the 4th year, the warm climate placement came through again, a family group near the southern coast, Alliance verified, the right biome for rail physiology. The welfare representative brought the paperwork in person, which meant it was real and final, and Keth read through the family's verification documents with the same attention he brought to every manifest, looking for errors and found none. He told the representative he would need 48 hours to prepare the transfer documentation. He spent those 48 hours filing a competing claim. He had the standing now, 4 years of documented caretaking, the medical records, the welfare logs, the licensed guardian designation. The form was Section 9 of the Alliance Welfare Charter, which he had read 11 times and could have recited by page number. The welfare representative called him from the lower station and said she had never seen a Vaughan file for formal guardianship before. He said he kept good records. The claim was approved in the 5th year, after 2 reviews and a home assessment that required the assessor to travel to altitude and stand in the equipment room while Keth explained the heating system, and Liz explained the cargo manifest organization, and the assessor wrote things down and did not speak for a long time and then said, "Yes." He did not tell her it was approved until the paperwork was final. He had learned, from cargo discrepancies, that announcing a shipment before it cleared the relay was how mistakes happened. The morning after he received the final confirmation, he showed her the document. She read it, which she could do now. Rail absorbed language the way they absorbed everything, with that complete and concentrated attention, and she sat with it in her lap for a moment and looked at him. "Does this mean I live here?" she said. "It is what the document states," he said. She thought about this. Then she went back to the heating unit she had been calibrating, which she was doing on her own now because she had learned the calibration sequence by watching him do it 400 times. He found the document on the wall beside the auxiliary fuel cells when he came back from the ledge that evening. She had affixed it there with equipment tape, precisely level, in the spot where she had sat during that first winter with the thermal blanket around her shoulders. He left it there. The 6th year brought a school transport, Alliance run, the kind that took children from outpost postings to proper educational facilities where they could be with others of their kind and learn things a depot manager could not teach them. Liz was the right age for it now. He had known it was coming. He had filed the enrollment forms himself, in the spring, because that was what the section on educational rights in the guardianship charter required, and he followed the charter. She packed her bag the night before with the same careful efficiency she brought to cargo checks, sorting what was needed from what was not. He watched from the doorway and did not say anything, because there was nothing useful to say. In the morning, when the transport settled on the landing shelf in the pale early light, she picked up her bag and walked to the door and stopped and turned around. She looked at him with the silver eyes that had watched him across a cargo bay 6 years ago, wide with cold and uncertainty, and something she had not had words for then. She had words now. "I'll be back at the winter break," she said. "I already filed the travel request, Section 4 of the Educational Charter." "I know," he said. "I checked it." She smiled then the way Rail smiled with the whole of their faces and said, "Okay, Father." He did not correct her. She stepped out into the cold morning air and walked to the transport, and he stood in the doorway until the transport lifted and banked south and became a small bright point against the pale sky, and then was gone. He went back inside and ran the manifest for the morning supply drone and entered the numbers with the same handwriting he had always used, careful and precise, and did not think about anything in particular, and the station was very quiet, and the document on the wall caught the light from the heating element and was exactly level, as it had always been. He had kept good records,